Hi, boys and girls. We're going to work on identifying our geometry items for today's lesson, which include points, line segments, lines, and rays. And we're going to start by pulling up our ConnectEd Student Center, which is what you'll see on the screen here. And then I'm going to access some of my tools on the toolbar down here by pulling up this little arrow. And I'm looking for the pen today. And the color that I'd like to pick, I think I'm feeling like green today. So I'm going to use green to illustrate some of our identifying geometry items. So what are we looking for today? First one we're going to be looking for is points. And a point is really just a single dot in space representing a single point. So it could represent 3. A point could represent a letter. So 3 might be on a number line. A letter might represent a point on a coordinate grid. A point might also represent a point in space where you are headed to or on a map. So it might be marked by the name of a city like New York City, and so on and so forth. So point just really represents one particular point in space. Now, if we have a line segment, that would be representative of just a single space of a line with points at each end. So these two terms, line segments and endpoints, are really quite related to each other because you have to have endpoints to have a line segment. So as you can see right here on this item that I've just constructed, this line segment, although it's not very straight, gets you the idea that there is a point at either end, so an endpoint, and I can label this line segment F and N. And so my line segment then would be F, N, and it would have this little mark across the top that would represent the fact that it's a line segment. So my endpoints are really just the points that mark out each line segment. So this one I'm going to label HA, like the word ha. Okay, oops, a little bit there. I'm going to go down to my eraser and scratch that part off. So the line segment HA, or ha. And so using our tools, we can illustrate some of those points. I'm going to move on to my next screen. Takes a little bit to get going here. And in this particular line item, we're going to be looking for a line. Now, oftentimes you hear in class, boys and girls line up at the door. But what we're really looking at in that situation, since we have a front and a back of a line, we're looking at a line segment. In the true case of a line, we actually have, and I'm going to draw that here, we have a non-terminating area of space marked by arrows on each end. So that is what a true line is. So the next time a teacher says get into a line, you can say, wait a minute, don't you mean a line segment? And you will be correct. So when we think about a line, we're looking at an area that goes on in for infinity. So that's what the arrows represent on either end, that it continues on and on and on. Now what I'm going to do is forward my screen to the next item, which is a ray. A ray is kind of like a combination between a line segment and a line. And what you have with a ray is an endpoint and then an extension of the line that goes in one direction or another. So I'm going to label this ray RA, like raw. And in this ray, this is my endpoint, and this is my continuation of that ray on in for time. So as I continue on here, we take a look at those different items. We've got a line segment right here, and the line segment could have a few different names, and it is also marked by arrows on either end to tell us that it could go on in beyond that. But what different line segment names do you think we could call this piece? Well, let's think first about the line segment that goes from here to here. Did you say XZ? If you did, you are correct. And what about if we're looking at the line segment that would go from here? Let's see if my pen will work here. I'm going to pick a different color, orange this time. From here it's not working properly. Well, you get the idea, from X to Y. But what about from Y to Z? Let's take a look at the different ones. Did you say XY, YZ, and XZ? If you did, you were correct. What alternate names could we have? Well, if we can go one direction, we can go the other direction. So think about what they might be if you labeled them backwards. Did you say YX, ZY, and ZX? You are correct. Now if we think about rays have one endpoint and then continue on for infinity. How many different rays do you think you could look at in this particular diagram, especially if you consider, I'm going to try to get rid of all those extra colors, especially if you consider that there are a few different endpoints you could choose from, at least 3, and different ways that they could go. Did you say XY from here to here, or XZ? Did you also have ZW? I don't see a W on here. I don't think that's correct. Or ZY. I think they meant to say ZX with that one. And then YZ and YX. All right. So if I had done some work in here, I would want to make sure to save my work so that it could be ready for my teacher to take a look at. And that is the end of my screen. So I am finished with today's activity.